Do you want to bring balance to all the wireless radiation fields in your life, including 5G? The Omnia Radiation Balancer is a small sticker you can stick on any device. It changes the state of the field and creates a new resonance between the wireless radiation and your energy field. On the link below, you'll see all our testing results that show how the body responds excellently once you've made this change in your life. And here's a special offer for the Journey to Truth crowd. Just enter the word truth in caps at the checkout for your 10% discount. It's easy to bring balance back to your body with the Omnia Radiation Balancer.
Hey guys, welcome back. If you caught the first episode, part one of this, I'm sure you guys are excited to see what we're going to get into this time. We covered a lot of current events and things that are going on behind the scenes, but this time we're actually going to get into Dan's time in the programs, his SSP testimony, how he was involved. I guess you were a senior security tech advisor to the Earth Alliance in the Secret Space program. Is that correct? Do I have that wrong or
no? But that's that's not the 20 and back.
Okay, so that's not what you did in the programs. Okay,
no,
I got you.
No, that happened in 1985 when the White Hats had me teach China how to do business. They brought the finance minister to me on December 1985, and that's a long story. But that's not in the program. That's
okay.
With the White. That's with the White Hats.
I misunderstood that. Okay. Yeah. Whenever you were working with the Earth Alliance, I thought it was part of the program. So forget I said that. Let's get into how you got into the programs and what this all looked like for you. How you got your memories back.
Right.
All of the above.
Yeah.
We all want to hear it.
Sure. So in I was born in 1953, but I was genetically engineered. And there's actually photos of the scientists that engineered me. My father was a Air Force photographer, and he took a lot of photos in the Secret Space program and films in the Secret Space program. So a lot of the films you'll see in the future were actually taken by my father. So in 1953, I'm born, but I was genetically engineered by Japanese geneticists that were trained by the Greys on how to genetically engineer a super soldier specifically. And the reason that was done in Japan was because the Nazis had gotten out into, they had gone well into the galaxy, and they'd run across different warrior species, a lot like the Draco reptilian warrior species, who have realms. When we say a realm, we're talking about many solar systems, not just one solar system. And a lot of the warrior species, they have realms that exceed 1,000 solar systems.
One second, we're getting a really weird noise right now.
That's a motorcycle.
Oh, okay.
wait till it passes.
Never mind. Then keep talking. Sorry, I just want to make sure it wasn't something with the audio. Keep going.
Yeah, it's a motorcycle outside, which is kind of interesting, but I hope he passed. Oh, he should pass. Yeah, he stops his motorcycle. Okay. So a realm might be anywhere between 1,000 solar systems or even more. The Draconian realm actually covers millions of planets in thousands of solar systems. But some of the realms that what the Nazis went into, the United States went into, are very similar to the situation that Randy Kramer talked about on Mars, where there was a reptilian species that said, well, you can't stay here and you can't have any colonies here unless you participate in combat, hand-to-hand, actually sword fighting combat competitions. And that because they call it fight to the truth. And that's what Randy said, fight to the truth, which is, well, if the planet wants you here, then you will win the competitions. And so that's what the United States did on Mars with Randy Kramer, and the super soldiers with that group would do actually sword fighting competitions, sword fighting tournaments and competitions with the reptilian species that were there. And the only reason we have colonists on Mars is because we were successful in those competitions. Anyway, so the Nazis went out throughout the galaxy, and they would run across other species like that would have similar rules where you can't stay here, you can't visit, and you're not welcome here, you can't travel through our space. And when you're talking about 1,000 solar systems, there's no shortcut around their realms. You want to go through their realms, you want traveling rights. In order to get traveling rights, we had to engage in, meaning the Nazis and the U.S. military, U.S. Air Force at the time, and U.S. Navy contingents, specifically Dark Fleet. They had to fight, they had to engage in sword fighting competitions with their best, and they didn't do well. The Nazis didn't do well at all. They weren't really good sword fighters. The saber fighting techniques weren't successful against the reptilian fighters. So they were told, you're really not welcome here until you can come up with better fighters. So what happened was the Nazis went back and they went to the Japanese, and the Japanese were really good at sword fighting. So were the Shaolin monks. And the Shaolin monks had been kicked out of China during the Communist Revolution. So they went to the Shaolin monks and they went to the Japanese sword fighters. And then they wanted those people to train super soldiers that were genetically engineered by the Greys. Anyway, my twin brother and I, David, we were of the first batch of super soldiers, genetically engineered and trained by Japanese and Shaolin sword fighters to engage in those sword fighting competitions in those particular realms. And so we were genetically engineered specifically for that purpose in 1953. And then when you're 2 years old, after 2 years old, you're actually trained from the age of 2. From the age of 2, they start training you right away.
So where are you?
I'm in Japan.
So you were born in Japan?
In Japan, yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. Wait. I was born on Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, which is in New York.
Okay.
And then we were shipped over to Japan to be trained.
So you were born right into this?
Yes.
Okay. So this wasn't like the other stories where you just were taken one night and brought back.
No. The Dark Fleet super soldiers are not drafted. They're genetically engineered. There are no Dark Fleet soldiers that are drafted. You are trained, you are genetically engineered, and then you're trained right away from the age of 2. So there's no drafting of Dark Fleet soldiers.
So then you were just basically grown up in the Air Force then?
Yeah.
Okay.
My father was an Air Force sergeant and in charge of the photo labs, and then he was a secret space program photographer. And I have some of the photos of the deep underground bases and of the Japanese geneticists who engineered me. He actually patented. Did you want to see that photo? Another time we'll do that. We'll do photos another time. I'll send them to you ahead of time before we pop up photos.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually have photos of the training and training facilities. I have photos of the actual base where I was genetically engineered and originally trained, and then photos of the genetic engineers, the genetic engineer who genetically engineered us, Japanese engineer, and they actually showed the patents. They actually patented, like Randy Kramer said, they patent you. They patent your genetic engineering. It's patented. And Randy Kramer talked about that too. You're genetically engineered, and they patent that. Go ahead.
Okay, so at age 2, how do they train a 2-year-old? Is it just?
Oh, wow. Well, in the beginning, they want you to walk and run right away. So what they do is, with us, they actually gave my father a dog that was specifically trained, and the dog's name is Major, and I can show you the pictures. And so what the dog does is they nudge you to get you to stand, and then you hold onto the dog. I'm telling you about the original training. You want to know right from the beginning? They do it right from the
let's
beginning.
hear it.
So the dog nudges you to stand and grab onto him, and then the dog walks. So you learn how to walk and run at a very early age, and swim.
And then
my brother David swam the channel. We were national champion water polo players together. So during the day you do certain things, and during the evening you actually get transported down to the base, and that's where you get your military training in the evening. And then they regress you time-wise. They send you back in time so you get a full sleep cycle, and then they transport you back into your daytime life. And then in your daytime life, they don't let you engage in military activities. They have you engage in sports because they don't want anybody to know your military capabilities. They don't want anybody to know you can fight. They definitely don't want anybody to know you can play.
So are you living a normal life on the surface at that point,
Yes.
going through a schooling
Yes.
system?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Except that, we're exceptional at everything, straight A students, whatever sport we entered into, they don't want you in football because football players get noticed. So they had us swimming and playing water polo during the day.
Oh, okay.
Water polo is a very energetic sport. And then nobody notices water polo players. They didn't during the period. During that period when we were playing water polo, it wasn't as popular as it is now.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So
So
then,
they don't want the super soldiers to get noticed. So they don't let you play sports that get noticed.
well, that's what somebody Ivan Teller calls the Super Bowl, like the Super Soldier Bowl. He said some of those guys are are genetically engineered. I wonder if that's true or not. Some of these top athletes we see, not just in the Super Bowl, but in other sports also.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what does your training look like? At what point do you eventually actually enter the programs and then?
You get deployed at 17 and a half.
Okay.
And now I was deployed from the New York Athletic Club. I played water polo on the men's first team, international men's first team, where we won every international tournament we entered. I'm 16 years old. And I'm playing the center guard position, which is the fighting position. And I'm 16 years old playing this top world-class men's team. And our two commanding officers, Hans and Werner, the colonel and the lieutenant colonel, they basically said, yeah, we're Nazis. And they told us about them being Nazis and the war. And we got deployed with them. They were our two commanding officers. We didn't know that at the time. We were playing water polo with our two commanding officers. Werner had won the Olympics for Germany as the center forward, and Hans was one of the guards on that Olympic championship team. And so it was an honor to actually play water polo with these two guys at 16 in men's international tournaments. So then we played water polo at 16, 17. We both got our All-American certificates for our play with the New York Athletic Club. And we got actually deployed right out of the locker room you get beamed up to the ship, and then the ship takes off and you're gone for 20 years. And then we actually stayed on board that cruiser and other cruisers. That's where we were stationed, is on the cruiser. We weren't stationed on any stations. We went around all kinds of missions from the cruisers that we were stationed on. So we were always, and our commanding officers were always Hans and Werner, the colonel and lieutenant colonel who originally played water polo with. So at 17 and a half, we were deployed.
And you guys consented to that? You were okay with it? Did you have?
No, they didn't. We didn't know. When you get beamed up, well, we had been trained in the program the whole time, so the consent was done. You see, when they train you during the night, they wipe your memory of the training, so that when you go to school during the day, you don't know any of that's happened. So the consent happened after 17 and a half years of training. We were training 17 and a half years, and we were top martial artists, meaning sword fighting martial artists, because that's specifically what they trained us to do, was fight with swords. They also taught us to fight like the Apache. We had two Apache instructors who taught us how to run through rocks, because that was one of the other things the Nazis couldn't do. They couldn't chase the reptilians through the rocks, and the reptilian teams could always escape through the rocks. And so one of the things they wanted to teach us was how to run through the rocks. It's highly advanced parkour. The Apache call it Rock 1, Rock 2, and Rock 3, meaning the difficulty in running through the rocks. The different moves that you make to the different rocks has three grades: Rock 1, Rock 2, and Rock 3. The Apache call it Rock 1, Rock 2, and Rock 3. But it's literally running through rocks like you can't imagine. You have no idea. It's running the 4-minute mile through rock terrain, rocks that most people could barely even crawl through, and we're running through at full bore in order to be able to chase down the reptilian combatants that we were after. That was one of the competitions, was to be able to run through the rocks. Nazis couldn't do it, so they had the Apache. Two of Geronimo's 16 were our actual instructors. Were the two of the men that ran with Geronimo and his 16 warriors. They taught us how to run like the Apache and how to fight like the Apache, and all very, very useful techniques in all of the all the battles that we did in through the 20 and back years. All that education was necessary. So after 17 and a half years of combat training, then they put an agreement for you, big stack like that, like like Randy told you, they put it before you, have you sign it, you just sign it. You don't think anything of it. You've been in the military for 17. You've already been trained in the military for 17 years, and you know you're one of the very best there are, because you are. I mean, you know it because the instructors are the very best in the world, and they tell you you're the best, and you fight. They actually have you do competitions both during the day, during the nighttime, and then you have a final exam in the daytime. And my final exam, I defeated 25 gang members all at once without harming any of them. That was the unique. Yeah, the samurais say don't use any more force than you have to, and so they actually brought knives and everything, and then I was supposed to fight these 25 gang members. And my age and older, I was a I was a sophomore, summer of my sophomore year at La Puente High School, and then I defeated them very easily. And they had 3 officers on the deck watching the final exam. That was my final exam, and it was to the death. These guys were trying to kill me.
Well, how do you defeat them without hurting them?
It's the martial arts skills that you learn. You're trained in martial arts from the age of 2 on.
Okay.
It was actually very easy for me to do, but I didn't even know it. I had no idea that I just knew I was a really good water polo player, and I had a lot of confidence from being a really good water polo player. And I did a lot of fighting. My position was the fighting position. I took on all the fights, so I just had a lot of confidence. And I was real surprised that I could handle all these guys. When I was like, where did that come from? Because they wipe your memories during the day, but they want to see if the training is imbibed in you, and not something you remember. And so that's why the test is during the day instead of the night. Well, you get tested at night too. I mean, we had final sword fighting competitions, which weren't to the death. We fought with the same samurai, the last samurai. You remember? We fought with those swords. I have one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the last samurai, the wooden swords.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we fought with in our final competitions, usually against 4 highly advanced sword fighters. And that was really easy for me. I'm the one that did all the major duels in the 20 and back that we did. That's what actually makes the United States famous. You become very famous as a planet when your fighters do that. When your fighters go out around the galaxy or other galaxies and defeat the very best fighters from other planets. So it's a real big thing.
That's fascinating, actually. So you mentioned sabers. Like, are you talking about, like, do they have lightsabers, or lightsabers a real thing?
No, absolutely. We use lightsabers, but the handle is oval, and it's more like a Japanese sword where it has cross hatching, so it's easy to grip. And then it's tuned to your hand, which means only your hand can activate it. When you grab it, and then you hit the button, then the lightsaber comes out, just like in Star Wars. Those are all the planets that we did duels with. They were all with lightsabers. Now I had 2. I was a 2 sword fighter. Nitenru, I usually use 2, but in an actual competition against really highly advanced sword fighters, usually settle down to 1. You don't really try to do 2. 2 works in combat for most people, but when you're in the high competition, the high tournaments, you usually just restrict yourself to 1. You can move 1 a lot faster.
So was that your 20 years? You didn't just sword fight the whole time?
No, our team was a team of 16. My brother Dave was the tech sergeant in charge of the team, first class. I was tech sergeant, second class, and so I was second in command. And then our team of 16, like the Apache, were like Geronimo 16. We were trained by the Apache to do team fighting activities, and that's what our team did. Our team often, we'd have to a lot of I don't know if you know anything about jousting. Originally, jousting was between individuals, but the last day of the competition, the first and second jousters that won the jousting, the first and second, then they would each get to pick 50 team members. This actually happened during the the feudal times on this planet, jousting. And then they'd each get to pick 50 fighters, and then those fighters would fight against each other, and whoever won the team competition won the joust, won the tournament. So you could come in second in the individual jousting, but you could win the tournament. And that was really happening. It does the same thing. We do the same exact thing in all of the warrior species. Do the same thing. You have individual competition, but you also have team competitions. And our team was 16.
So, and remind us again what the purpose of this is. You're claiming you're right in space, or
No, they call it Randy called it fight to the truth, but really what it is when a species becomes so advanced technologically that they can destroy themselves and other planets easily, which is a lot of advanced species have that capability. They decide not to use that. They make agreements with each other not to use technology in any um, dispute, any military dispute. We're not going to use technology. That the only disputes we're going to have, the only way we're going to resolve our disputes is duels between champions. And all advanced species do this. They either decide to resolve their competition in a game, like chess is actually one of the games that certain advanced species will use in order to resolve a dispute between planets. But a lot of the warriors, and there are other games that the different advanced species use, but the warrior species always fight duels between champions to the death. And it's usually not to the death, though. It's usually just to the maiming, till you can't go on,
So as far as you talked about your brother being recruited with you, and you guys are twins, what's the purpose of having the twins?
Yeah, the twin program is important because you're not really telepathic, meaning he can hear my thoughts and I can hear him thoughts. It's just I know what he's going to do before he does it. They used to call us the twin engine offense. This is actually in a lot of the scoreboard books and water polo. There was a person who did a magazine called The Scoreboard, and it's still there in the water polos. They're still using the scoreboard. And our coach was the one that started it, so he would call us the twin engine offense. I would know what my brother was going to do before he did it.
Interesting.
Or I know where my brother was going to be before he went there. And that gave us a major advantage in the water polo games, and it gave us a major advantage in any of the military competitions with teams. Specifically, and the Apache taught us to do this, you run 8 and 8. So when you want to capture another team, you run 8 and 8 around them. And so their team is running straight and you're running 8 and 8 till you come along, and then you move, then one person moves in and one person moves in, and now you have surrounded them. But I'm ahead of my team of 8 and David's ahead of his team. We're running through the rocks and we can't see each other, but I can feel my brother and he can feel me. And we know where each other is, and therefore we know where each line is, so that when we surround the team that we're about to capture, we're even, and we can't be even with each other unless we can feel each other. That was what the twin program was designed for.
Well, I mean, we see this with twins even here, like on Earth.
Correct.
I've seen twins both sitting in the same room, and they both get up at the same exact time to go get a drink of water.
Yep.
And it's really freaky, actually.
Yep. So that's what they did. And they genetically engineered us to be twins for that specific psionic capability.
So Elena Denon interviewed a guy who actually claimed to be a sword fighter as well in the SSP, and shortly after she interviewed him, it was his first time coming forward. Shortly after that, I think he passed away, but he spoke about sword fighting a reptilian, and he ended up defeating him because he said the only way to defeat them was to know their next move before they did it. And he could actually see, he got to a point where he could actually see 5 moves ahead or something like that.
Right.
And they could see the next move before it happened too. But if you're so many moves ahead of them, that's how you beat them. Right.
There are 2 psionic capabilities that they trained us, that they genetically engineered and trained. You have to have the genetic capability of beings to have psionic powers, but you also have to be trained to how to use the psionic powers. It's just not having it in your genetic engineering. And 2 of them were the power to foretell, meaning you can see ahead of what the other person's about to do, and power to slow down time. And you remember Randy told you about that one time that it happened to him in one of his battles where the opponents were moving in slow motion and he wasn't? Like, well, that's actually a psionic power that they trained us, my brother and I, to have. And I know the power is there because when I got returned back to Earth, you get returned into a clone. When I got returned back, I didn't lose that power. I'd actually had a lot of fighting engagements. When I got returned, you get returned right back to the day they take you out. 70, you're deployed at 17 and a half, then you go out and you do 20 years, then they come back and they drop you right back where they left you off within 10 minutes. And then you go on, you're in your clone body for the rest of your life. And I still had that power to slow down time. So I know when Randy mentioned it, I said, oh, yeah, I know that. I've actually done engagements where all the combatants were moving in slow motion and I wasn't.
Well, and we see that depicted in like all these superhero movies. They show that like everything slows down and they can do all this stuff in all the other.
And that's real because remember, they don't give your memories are all gone. They take away all your memories. And like the Admiral told me, he said the memory wipes 100%. So we can't figure out how come you're getting some of your memories back.
Sounds like the kids are back there sword fighting.
Oh, the grandkids. Yeah. Yeah. They're wild ones. They're great.
Okay. So how far out did you travel?
I believe it was all throughout this galaxy and several other galaxies I remember. I only have some memories. I only have some of the memories.
And how did those memories start coming back?
When I started, once I became a physicist in January 2014, and I started immediately discovering over Unity, and then the 6th Force in September, and then the 7th Force. The memory started coming back then because that I realized that everything they were telling us about physics was a lie. And I said, well, if that's a lie, then, what else is a lie? So I went back and I said, maybe I started listening to Randy Kramer. I said, I don't know. I suspect I had a super soldier background too. So I started going back into the photos that my father had left. And sure enough, the evidence was there. It was there and it brought back the memories. And then from those memories, I was able to build more memories from there. A lot of recurring dreams that I had were actually memories of the experience. Once I realized and identified what those memories are, they became more clear as to the relevance in the program. So it was gradual, but really what started to kick it was when I first started discovering over Unity generators, started developing my physics career and designing over Unity generators. That's what kicked my memories back.
So what kind of, so you think you were just in our solar system? Did you go to any other galaxy?
No. I was in this galaxy and several others. Galaxy.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Oh, you said solar system. I'm sorry.
Well, I meant like, where did you travel to? You've been in other galaxies, so this isn't just taking place here, is what I was getting at.
No, when the Nazis started traveling, it was like Star Trek. They started traveling as far as they can go, and they're still doing that. They're still going as far as they can go. They keep going and going in every galaxy. We keep exploring everywhere. We're very curious. We're very curious, and we just have scientific vessels that keep traveling. Like what was that one? Anyway, one of the Star Trek series where they got thrown out 70,000 million miles or something. Anyway, that they got lost way out there, and they just kept traveling. Just keep traveling. And that's what the Nazis did. They just kept traveling in scientific research vessels.
How many breakaway civilizations do you think the Nazis have out there?
The Japanese went on their own, separate from the Nazis, and they have their own planets. The Japanese do. The Nazis also broke away, and they have their own planets. They actually own like 26 planets. They, not just they're not just here, but they have their own planets elsewhere. And the same with the Japanese. They have many. They actually rule and control many planets that they purchased. They bought them.
Well, I mean, we hear about the Germans like establishing bases all over the galaxy.
Yes.
That's what I mean. Like, how many breakaway civilizations do you think they actually have? As far as
you're talking about bases, or it's the same it's the same breakaway group, the Nazis.
Yeah. But I mean,
okay, you're talking about the number of bases that they have.
Yeah.
Okay, they have embassies, which means a city, on every single planet that they do business with, and that means 900 separate planets in this galaxy alone.
Interesting. So how? Okay.
That's just an embassy, and then an embassy. When you make an agreement with a planet, they also allow you to have bases in other parts of their solar systems, their realm. So the Nazis have bases on. Not only do they have an embassy on all of those planets of the 900 species, but they have bases throughout their realm.
I'm just trying to think about public disclosure. Like, how would our society even handle that information?
Well, we can't go out of the outer barrier without permission, which means some research vessels from the Earth Alliance will be allowed to go out there. But the problem with defeating the Draco inside of our solar system is that they may go out naked. which means that once we defeat the Draco inside of our solar system, we still have to get along with the Draco just to be able, meaning the Earth Alliance has to get along, has to make a treaty with the Draco just to be able to go out and travel. Just like, see, the Nazis made agreements with the Draco, and they're traveling all throughout their realms, which is thousands of galaxies, millions of planets. The Nazis made an agreement with the Draco, and that was part of the agreement. We, the Earth Alliance, haven't made that agreement. We're doing war with them right now. So our ability to go out and travel like the Nazis did isn't going to happen right away. We're going to have to come to terms with the Draco. And the Spirit beings are telling us that we have to live longer, which means our lifespan needs to increase by at least 300 years. Well, we can do that with the Medpods. And that's one of the other things that the Earth Alliance wants to bring out right away is Medpods to increase all of our lives by 300 years. That's very important. So you can't gain spiritual advancement in 100 years. You need more time. But it's not just that. You can't gain the psionic powers to power a 8th Force ship. And that's what we're developing 8th Force, and the Spirit beings know that. And they know that ability, 8th Force ships, makes us more powerful than the Draco. And when we have 8th Force ships, 8th Force fleets, and we will, because I'm working on it, and I know, then we can go out and travel about throughout the universe like the Nazis have been doing without being harassed by the Draco.
So what is this vessel? Do you know what the vessel you were stationed on looked like? What type?
It's that triangular shaped thing that they show you in Star Wars, except it doesn't have those weird jet engines in the back.
Oh, like a Star Destroyer.
That's what it like. Didn't
William Tompkins drew that?
Yeah, William Tompkins. Okay, those are our ships. Yeah, those are our ships. That's a cruiser. All those things sitting around that on the moon when NASA went there. I'm sorry, not NASA. Yeah, NASA. When NASA went there and they saw all those ships on the surface of that crater, those are the ships. Those are cruisers.
Okay. And that's what you were stationed.
That's what they look like, and you have to have the shape in order to be able to use temporal drive, hyperdrive. Bob Lazar was teaching.
In particular, those are Dark Fleet ships, though.
Yep.
Because
no, Dark Fleets are a little bit more advanced technology. Remember the Draco aren't going to give us their most advanced technology. The Draco ships are tier shaped.
So Dark Fleet's not affiliated with the Draco?
No, Dark Fleet is the Nazi contingent that works with the Draco, but they don't have the Draco ships.
Okay.
The Draco wouldn't give us the most advanced technology. Their ships are tier shaped, which have the most advanced technology, but they never let us have that. They let us have the lesser technology, which was the triangular shaped ones.
And then we hear about these retrofitted submarines that the Navy was using early on.
That was originally way back when we started with, but that's so old it isn't even funny. Yeah, those were the original ships. Put a 6/4 engine in a submarine, go flying out in space, no big deal. But doing battle? No, sorry.
Yeah, those are like research vessels and stuff like that. From what I understand.
No, we stopped using that stuff a long time ago, many years ago. They stopped using that stuff in 62 and 64.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are any of them still in operation right now?
Yeah, they're in operation. They're mothballs. I love to keep them around just to show people. The old. It's like Smithsonian Institute, Aircraft Institute.
Yeah, I got you.
There are a few of them around. They're operational. They use 6/4 engines, but it's just 6/4 is considered extremely slow. We have 9.8 warp engines. We've had them since the 80s. And then we also have the temporal drive, hyperdrive, which means you travel through time. Your ship travels through time, gets from one point to the other like that.
Okay.
One galaxy to the next in a moment.
So going back to your testimony, you're traveling around doing these battles, and this lasts for the whole 20 years.
Crazy, right? Fighting for 20 years, insane.
And then, do you know, like, at what point that you were brought back?
Well, you see, you get dropped off right at the moment they took you.
Yeah,
they bring you back in time, and they drop me right at the New York Athletic Club in the locker room. The day they took me, the moment, the 10 minutes from the 10 minutes they took me, which means 1969.
So I meant, like, while you were in the programs, do you have any memory of, like, okay, we're coming to the end, I know I'm going to go back?
Not those memories.
Okay.
We can go over all the different memories I have, different battles. Well, the awards memory, meaning they gave us our last awards, then they told us we were going to be returned at our last, giving us our medals, honors. And at the last honors ceremony, then they told us, and now you're going to be returned, and then you're going to be dropped off right where we took you, and you're not going to have any memories of it.
Okay, so you knew that.
They do tell you you're not going to have any memories now, because the time regulations are very specific. What you can do when you go back in time, you're allowed to do certain things, you're not allowed to do certain things. So it's important that you don't have your memories back, because that might interfere with, that might become a time violation or a time deviation if you have memories. So you're not supposed to have memories of the 20 and back. It's part of allowing you to go back in time 20 years and then come back forward in time 20 years. Part of allowing you to do that, part of it requires that they remove your memories when you come back.
Yeah.
So you're not really, so they don't want you to remember that stuff, because they also don't want you to, you'll be very powerful. If you remember everything in your 20 and back, you can take over the planet easily. If you knew all that stuff that you did and can do, you take over the planet. Then that's the other reason they don't want you to have the memories. You're too powerful. Even in a clone, remember the body that you went away in, the highly advanced genetically engineered body, that body gets destroyed, and you get put into a clone that's actually dumbed down. It has less powers. But if you had all your memories, you know what you can do. You know what you can, even in a clone body.
So how are clones used in the SSP then? Is that how they do it?
When you're removed, when you're deployed and you get on the cruiser, they make a clone of you right then and there, 17 and a half. And then that clone is put in stasis, and then you go out and you do your 20 and back in your original body. You go out and you do your 20 and back, 20-year service, and then they put you right next to you're 35 years old, and you're right next to your 17 and a half year old clone, and they put your soul from the 35-year-old body into the 17 and a half year clone, and then that is being back down to the planet.
So then when they come back, all these guys who are whistleblowers are actually a clone. Well,
I don't know. See, I've heard there are other technologies that have been used since then. I don't know about those technologies. I know
Corey
about
says he was
this technology.
Age regressed using.
I've heard about that. Chemicals and replicator energy. I heard, but I don't know. I know what Dave and I were the very first batch. Our group, we were the very first U.S. genetically engineered super soldiers with Dark Fleet. Well, of course, they have more technologically advanced tools after that.
Sure.
Right? But I know what was used during our period.
Exactly. And that's actually new information. I haven't heard that exact situation described before from any whistleblowers, but it makes sense to me. Yeah. It makes sense to me how that would work.
Well, actually, Randy says that's how it was done with him. If you really listen, you got to really listen, But the reason those things resonated with me is because, it happened to me. Oh yeah, it happened to me. When Corey started talking about the outer barrier, I go, oh my God, someone else knows about the outer barrier.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think happened to your body during the 10 minutes that you were gone in the locker room? You said that
it can be within 10 minutes, but nobody's going to notice. You're in the locker room alone. Nobody notices.
Oh,
nobody noticed you got deployed. Nobody saw you get beamed up because you're alone in the locker room.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I just know exactly where it was. Yeah.
Corey said he was in bed, like asleep, and then 10 minutes.
Nope, I was getting dressed after we practiced water polo at the New York Light Club. That's where we trained. We were practicing, and I was going to Rutherford High School, and then Hans and Werner would pick us up and we go to the pool for our regular water polo practices.
What I'm saying is they do it at a time where no one's going to notice.
No, you're in the room. Yeah, Dave and I are in the locker room alone. Everybody else had left. Yeah.
Yeah. So whether you're asleep or you're in the locker room or whatever,
you're alone, right? Do it nobody sees you get.
No one's going to see you disappear and be like, "Oh my God!"
It's a big white light. Nobody, they don't want anybody seeing it.
Yeah, so they probably strategically,
Well, they can scan the whole building. They see everything and where everybody is.
Yeah.
At the time when they do it, they know when you're alone.
Okay, I got you. So then,
of course, we got beamed up with Hans and Werner. So it's David, me, Hans and Werner, and we're the only 4 people in the locker room. And Hans and Werner told everybody to leave the locker room. They were in charge of the team, so people told he said, "Go ahead, get dressed, go away. We're on to talk to Dan and Dave," and then they all went away, and then we all got beamed up.
Wow.
So it's real simple.
So when you came back, I mean, at that time when you were 17, you had no idea that anything happened, probably.
Right. They completely remove your memories, just like they would do during every training day. Every day, your memories are removed before you get put back into your bed for your daytime activities. You don't know that you just had a whole training session all night long.
Do you feel
in a deep underground base? You don't know because your memories get wiped every day.
Do you have any like feelings that you couldn't explain or anything, or you're like,
oh yeah,
why do I feel
that was a lot of the stuff that helped me recover some of the memories. Plus, I think that I had actually made arrangements with certain alien species to help me to give back some of my memories, to actually give them back, to record them and then give them back. So I think I actually had made arrangements, and I think that's actually how I've got some of my memories back, and I keep getting them back. And even if they got removed by the ICC, then those aliens I made agreements kept giving them back. For example, I won a very big tournament, the Galactic Kumite. I actually won it, and that afforded me a lot of people offered me to rule planets. I mean, because I won that tournament. It's a very prestigious tournament. It's the most prestigious tournament in the galaxy.
It reminds me of Dragon Ball Z. Do you know that?
I don't know. No, I don't play games.
Well, no, it's a cartoon. It's a Japanese. It's a Japanese anime cartoon, but that's
yeah.
That's exactly what the whole premise of the show is they're battling like tournaments like that all over the galaxy to take over certain planets and stuff.
Disclosure.
Well, we did it just to get the rights to travel through their system.
Yeah, that's really there's tons of disclosure in that.
So what happened? So what happened when I won the Kumite? A lot of the people who the major players or the major combatants that lost against me in the tournament, they said, well, you don't just get the medal, you don't just get the trophy, you get certain requests granted. And so like there's these 10 different species that were that usually would win the Kumite of the galaxy. They would say, well, you can ask anything of us and it will be granted. And I did ask that some of my memories get returned to me when I came back.
Interesting. So what actual groups or species did you encounter? Do you have any memories of different?
Yes. Well, reptilians, they were major combatants. Also coyote. And then if you recently, Janet was like, oh, it can't be dog species. I go, they were very powerful. Coyote, wolf, and then Emery Smith and Randy Kramer just did a show where they discussed one of the dog species that you're going to be introduced to. And they talked a bit about them. They said that, well, they have pets, and their pets are monkeys, and they think it's really interesting that we have dog pets. Though there are various advanced species that are their dog species, and several of them are warrior species. And one of them looks like coyotes, and one of them looks like wolves.
And then that was it. No, you don't recall encountering any other ones?
Oh yeah, the reptilians. I remember a lot of encounters with reptilian species, different reptilian species. They're not all the same. There are actually many different kinds of reptilian species. I remember insectoid encounters. I also remember aquatic encounters, but they weren't violent encounters. They just met them.
Sure.
Yeah, the insectoids don't usually do the combatant thing, and neither do the aquatic. The combatant thing, meaning warrior species that I remember that I have memories of. Remember, I only have a few. Were the dog species and the reptilians.
Yeah, I've heard like the insectoids are utilized a lot for like army engineering. Well, just because
things.
Well, because they're hive mind. They have their hive mind, so they can all work together in a way that humans can't. So they utilize insectoids for certain like missions also. I
haven't heard that one, but it makes sense. I have not heard that, but it makes sense. Randy talked about the insectoid species on Mars, which is pretty good accurate description of how they work. And then Randy's actually our most. I don't know if you know anything about military decorations, but Randy is actually, and I got this confirmed by a CIA general. Randy is actually the most highly decorated in uniform U.S. Soldier ever. So he got the Medal of Honor, Purple Heart. You only get one Purple Heart. You only get one Medal of Honor. and 26 5/16" stars. If you look it up, you look up 5/16" stars, you'll see that 26 is the highest. And you think to yourself, well, who the hell got anything? The only names you're going to see listed are those who got 5 or below. So you don't know the ones that got between 6 and 26. Well, those are all super soldiers. And so you're not going to know those names until the future. Randy's the one that's got 26. He's our most highly decorated super soldier. And he got one of those 5/16" stars, like getting the Medal of Honor 27 times. Medal of Honor 26 5/16" stars. So Randy got one of those for bringing the insectoids to the treaty table, to the peace table. And then he describes how he did that. He dropped his weapons and walked right up to him. That's how he pulled it off.
Well, that doesn't even surprise me, to be honest. So, well, I forgot my question now.
You were asking about different species.
Yeah, well, okay, I was. So you were shown...
Oh, humanoid, of course. Different kinds of humanoids. I mean, big ones and littler ones. The 4-foot ones are most dangerous, like the Greys, but they weren't the Greys. They weren't the Greys, but they were pretty. See, the smaller, you're faster, and so the 4-foot ones that I remember, humanoid warrior species, they were pretty tough. They were pretty fast with a sword.
Okay, so I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out. I had something on the tip of my tongue that I wanted to ask.
I remember that.
I'm trying to get it back.
I've got one, but it's more of like back to what's happening now question.
Yeah, that's what people want to know.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, okay, that's nice. Now, but what about today? What about me?
Yeah. I'm just curious what. So we know there are some benevolent races that are our friends, so to speak, that are sort of helping us, and people talk about the Pleiadians or the Nordics or the.
Yeah, Pleiadians, Nordics, and the Arcadians or Andromedans also.
Arcturians, Andromedans.
Yeah, right. That's all real, and they're all part of the Earth Alliance to defeat the assets that were here, because they had bases here. Those assets have aligned with the Earth Alliance and the White Hats, and they're now currently in battle with the Draco in our solar system.
Awesome.
So whenever you were shown the video of the elephant, the Ganesh.
Oh wow, that was.
Were you shown any other videos like that?
Nope, just that one. I've had my own personal experiences. I met the Greys when I was 8 years old in North Carolina. I met the Nordics twice, and actually spoke with them once. I spoke with the Greys, so I know what Greys look like. I know what Nordics look like, and I spoke with them. And
did this happen? Were you taken?
Nope.
Or just on a military base or something?
Nope. We were on it was a Cub Scout outing, and we were camping in North Carolina at a Boy Scout campground. We were in our pup tents, me and my brother, and I just couldn't go to sleep because I was hearing all these noises, and I wanted to go out and explore. So I got out of the tent, and I walked about 100, 200 yards away from the campground into a meadow, which was a dried up meadow. It was just grass. And I was just in the tree line, and I was laying down listening to all the animal noise. I was very curious about all the different species. And then the Greys came down and landed, and the ramp went out, and I'm like, well, this is really cool. And the ramp went out, and one Grey came out, a little 4-footer came out, probably a Grey bee, one of the servants. And the Grey bee came out, looked down the ramp, and he's looking around, and he spotted me, and I didn't know he spotted me. Then he went back up to the ramp, and he pulled out his commander, his commander was a Grey A, and he told me he was the supreme commander of the Grey fleet in the quadrant, meaning the quadrant of the galaxy. And he told me that. And he spoke to me telepathically, the Grey A, and which was a really cool conversation. At the end, he said, "Well, you want to come and take a trip around the universe?" I said, "You mean like the whole universe?" And we're communicating telepathically. And I'm at a distance from them. I'm like I wasn't actually right up front on the ramp, so they could telepathically communicate easily 50 yards away. It was easily 50 yards away, and I was still hiding behind the tree line, but they could see me clearly. And he was saying, "You want to take a trip around the universe?" I said, "Oh no, my mom would freak out if I didn't, if I went with a stranger." And he laughed. They were very charismatic and very humorous.
Really?
Yeah. Because he got a big chuckle out of that when I said my mom would be upset if I went with a stranger. He laughed.
Yeah.
So he said, "Well, you sure?" I said, No, my mom would really freak out if I didn't come back." He said, "No, we'll bring you right back. No, your mom will never know you're gone." I said, "No, I don't want to disobey my mom," and he laughed, and they took off.
So I wonder why, they weren't just landing there for the heck of it. I'm sure.
No, they came to talk to me. They knew I was in the program.
Okay.
And they knew my future. You have to understand the Looking Glass technology is real. And the Greys they've had it before we had it. And so they're used to looking into a person's future, and they knew I was in the program. They knew I was in the program because they were training me. They were part of the people they were giving us all the technology that was necessary for the program. So they knew I was in the program, especially the Supreme Commander of the Quadrant knew I was in the program and knew who I was, knew I was the best sword fighter at 8 years old, and knew my future. So they wanted to take me, and I don't know what they wanted to do, but I didn't go, and they didn't force me.
Interesting. So talking about the looking glass technology, how does that tie into Q?
I don't know about Q.
You don't know about Q?
No.
The Q operation?
No, really, I don't. I don't follow this community. I'm a physicist. I do physics things. But go ahead, tell me.
Well, we know this Q is apparently this military operation that was working with the Trump administration.
Well, it's supposed to be the White Hats or the Alliance.
Yeah.
Essentially.
If they call themselves the Q, originally when the White Hats disclosed themselves to me through Bronco, my controller from 1996 to 2014, Bronco Belichevsky, 3-star CIA general, he described them as the division. He called it the division. And even then, he didn't want me to say that to anybody. So, if they call themselves the Q now, that's fine. But back then, they called themselves the division.
Oh, okay, interesting. Well, anyway, it just appeared to be, and they even mentioned it in the Q drops, that looking glass technology was probably used because it seemed they were dropping this intel online that was almost predicting future events that we would like months ahead of time, and so we would get intel. Yeah, we would get this intel, and then a few months later, it would happen exactly like that. And it's like they claim that basically they got this technology from the cabal or the deep state. Now it was in the hands of the Alliance or the White Hats, and they're using it against them, basically.
Yeah, that's what was told to me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
About a month ago, that's what was told to me.
Interesting.
They have looking glass. They have looking glass technology, and then they keep seeing me in it, because they were talking about me, and then they were talking about these other events that we were looking ahead, and we're going to be defeating them soon, but they don't give a specific date. But that's what they keep seeing in the looking glass. Every time they look in, they keep seeing they're going to win the battle. And I believe that. Like I told you before, the spear beings wouldn't have wasted their time putting up the outer barrier if that wasn't going to be the outcome. So I know it's going to be the outcome. I just don't know when.
The story was that the reason the cabal's always been one step ahead of the Alliance because they had the looking glass and they could always see what the Alliance was going to do. So they could always get ahead.
They would combine the looking glass with the AI technology. And the problem with looking glass is
they can finally.
Right now they can do comparable. You're right. They have a chance because they're using the same tech. The problem with the looking glass is it only shows probability, so you have to keep looking into it to see all the probabilities, but which narrows down the possible attacks and counterattacks. If but you don't know for sure which one's absolutely going to occur. You keep seeing different probable outcomes, but it's still by looking you still are able to narrow down your strategy, narrow down your options. And you have a major advantage if your opponent doesn't have the same technology. That's correct.
Yeah.
So whenever they say like they've told you is soon, like there's no like obviously
they keep saying something big's going to happen in September, and you're going to know because there's supposed to be an economic crash or whatever for a short period. But I don't take too much stock. They recommend stocking up, so you have water and food.
I've been hearing that for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I've been hearing for years and years and years from the ICC.
Yeah, I've been hearing it for 8 years now.
Duck and cover in the 50s when I was growing up. You hear that, we'll keep lots of food and water in the house because the bombs are coming,
Yeah.
I've been hearing that ever since I was a little baby, So you should keep at least 6 months stock of food and water around, medical supplies, if you can.
Yeah.
And it's always a good idea.
I mean, it's going to be prepared anyway, but I mean, you can't constantly live in fear either like that.
Yeah.
Like, and that's.
Well, the fear is that you might be one of the 1/3 that they're trying to cull with the viruses and the vaccines,
Yeah.
So the biggest problem with the vaccine, and this is what the White Hats are telling you, is that it alters the DNA. And the problem with altering your DNA is that when the Medpods come out, when we win the war, and the Medpods come out, which will increase your life by 300 years, you can't use it because your DNA has been altered.
Wow.
That's what's really behind that.
Is that part of the agenda with it?
Yeah, that's the major agenda for the vaccine, is to alter your DNA so you can't use the Medpods when they come out. So they already know they're going to lose. They already know they're losing.
Oh yeah,
they're looking last year, seeing they're going to lose. So now
they're going down swinging right now. Is all they're doing. They already know it's game over. It's just they're not ones to just surrender without a fight. So they're just going down, kicking and screaming.
There are certain indicators that you'll see before when the victory goes down. One of the first things that you're going to see is they're going to round up all of the gang members. So Branko Belichevsky, my controller, my CIA controller, one of his commands, not only rigging elections, that was a major command, by the way, major command responsibility, but his other command is co-opting all of the criminal gangs, all of them, Triad, Mafia, all of them, and getting them to do wet work for the ICC. So anybody they wanted executed, they would use the criminal gangs, assassins, to do that. And so it was Branko's job to make sure that all the criminal gangs didn't get prosecuted and that all their assassins were never jailed. So one of the first indicators of that we won the war is that the federal government's going to go. They're going to be a bunch of federal. Well, you mean U.S. Air Force, U.S. Army, U.S. majors, Marines. The U.S. military is going to go and arrest all of the gang members, all of them, prosecute them, put them all in prison, or execute them. That'll be one of the first indicators, because those gangs serve the ICC. They do the wet work for the ICC. And how do I know that? Because Branko was the commanding officer in charge of that program, and he told me.
I mean, we've been kind of waiting for some type of arrest scenario like that. Anyway, we've been hearing about it. So
that's an indicator. So you want to know when that's what's got to happen. That's a major indicator.
I just wonder if we hear about people being arrested, but it's not even made public.
Yeah, that's the ICC telling you stories. It's the ICC puts a lot of false propaganda out there. And then when it doesn't come true, they're like, well, they put a lot of false propaganda out there, false flag, false propaganda. And that's the ICC's been doing that from the very beginning.
Just to throw people off and discourage
also to get you to think, put the giggle factor into it. We'll see, that's just,
discredit
discrediting the giggle factor. And they don't want you to become involved. Then you can become involved. There is, you can join the military special forces, get into a white hat division. It's possible you can become involved. I don't know about you guys. I'm not talking about you guys. There are many ways that the public can get involved. I just don't really discuss it because they don't even believe yet. Enough of the public doesn't believe this stuff yet.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say for our audience, for their sake, if somebody wanted to get involved, what could they do?
Not enough. Everybody can get involved. First off, you have to understand that the Congress is run by the ICC. So if you vote for either a Republican or a Democrat, then you're voting for the ICC. So I haven't voted since Branko told me he started rigging elections. I stopped voting, and it's called abstention. So if everybody stopped voting, if enough people stop voting,
opt out of the system. Yeah.
You're basically saying you don't have a confidence in the system. The system's corrupt. It basically belongs to the ICC, and I don't want to have any part of it. And that's the only thing that you can do. But if a handful of you do, it doesn't mean anything. Nobody's going to notice.
I've never.
A lot of you be doing it. Abstention is one thing. Now there's another thing called the initiative. Now I don't know if you know this, but you don't actually have to have politicians make law. You can actually make your own laws. The public can make their own laws. It's called the initiative process. And you can do that. And I know how to do the initiative process, but you have to have a lot of really expert attorneys do it. You can't do it on your own. And it takes a little bit of money, not a lot of money. But if everybody threw in $1, a lot of people threw in $1, you could do initiatives. You could actually take the government out of the hands of Congress and put it into your own hands. You can do that. It's called the initiative process.
Somebody out there is going to hear that and start.
Yeah, but it's not easy. You got to. Now I practiced law for 25 years, so I know how to do it. You need an expert attorney. They never let me have the CIA never let me have a license, so I always did my law work as a paralegal. But yeah, if you don't like abstention, well, then you can do the initiative process, but it's a lot more difficult.
So I've never voted a day in my life. Actually, like I've
right. So you're an abstentionist. You're an abstentionist like me.
See? Even when I was younger, like I don't know why, I just like the whole idea of politics was just silly to me. Now I know why. Maybe somehow I knew something that I didn't subconsciously.
Intuitively knew that was your option to fight back was to abstain.
And what it also got me out of is any sort of jury duty also, because if you're not registered to vote, you can't get called for jury duty, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So it's nice being out of it that way. But you said that
the initiative process.
No, but I'm saying as far as you said, Trump actually won this last election, which pretty much everybody knows.
Yeah.
Do you have any? Do we know what the numbers actually looked like?
Oh, probably about 30% more. You know, he didn't win it by no landslide. He didn't win it by a landslide. No.
Really? Because that's what some people think, that it was just a major red wave. You know.
No.
But he did win.
Yeah. Which
they're
trying to do these audits and
Trump's problem is he there's a thing called the second bite at the apple. Remember, I practiced law for 25 years, guys, at a high level, right? Meaning I won every case for the CIA they gave me, and they only gave me the cases that couldn't be won. And I won every one of them, so I'm pretty good. And the thing is that Trump already filed a bunch of lawsuits challenging the election, and that's his first bite at the apple. And in law, you're not allowed two bites, meaning you can't come up with the same arguments twice. And so it'd be really hard for him to again go through the courts, because you can't get two bites at the apple. So, and his attorneys already told him don't do this. You're not ready for this. You don't have enough evidence and you're going to lose. And he lost every one of those 50 cases because he didn't have enough evidence. Because he wanted to do it very quickly and lost. And the problem with the legal system that was set up by the ICC is it takes a long time to sue government. That was my expertise, of suing government.
Well, the whole problem
if he waited and done it properly and waited till he had gathered enough evidence to do it, then he would have won. Now, if he tries to pump that stuff through the courts, he's going to lose again, because they're going to say you can't get two bites at the apple. And that's what it means. And we have the same thing in criminal court. You can't prosecute a person twice for the same. Double jeopardy. You can't put a person in jeopardy twice. It's the same thing in civil court. You only get one bite at the apple. You can't do it twice. Well, so Trump already blew it as far as that goes. If you're going to see a white hat candidate coming forward, it'll be someone else. It won't be Trump.
Interesting. Because I don't know what's going to happen, but so many people are expecting him to come back, and even he's saying like, "Oh, I'll be back sooner than later," blah blah blah, in his rallies. So these audits.
Well, if somehow the election can be proven to be rigged and a fraud, doesn't that nullify?
No, see, he already presented evidence. He presented evidence of that in the first 50 cases that he did. So first, you're asking me legally. There's two different ways to come back. One is legally, and one is a what do you call it when you take over the government?
Well, if somehow we can prove it to the mass public, to enough, the majority of people believe. Oh,
and then he runs in the next election, and they vote for him. Then he can come back.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying, before that even happens, if it's somehow proven that most people see for themselves, like, okay, the election was rigged. Trump actually won. We've been lied to.
Well, now you're talking about deposing Biden, which means impeaching Biden. It is possible to do an impeachment of Biden. That's possible.
Okay,
but that doesn't bring Trump back.
Well, yeah,
you're asking me about the law. You're asking me about the law, and I know the law real well. That doesn't bring Trump back.
I mean, me personally, I don't care whether it's Trump or, as long as it's not another cabal person coming next.
Yeah.
It needs to be the good guys getting the bag, getting these swamp creatures out of the way, getting them arrested.
Well, until we actually win the physical battle.
Yeah.
And then there are certain indicators that are gonna show you that things have changed, where the cabal is no longer in charge. And I told you one of those indicators is they're going to round up all the criminal gangs.
So really all the surface stuff, it doesn't even matter as long as they have to win this battle going on behind the scenes first.
We have to win the military battle, and then also the release of the technology. The first thing that's going to be released is a generator that goes in your house. Yeah. And that'll be available, and you can purchase them, and they might even, I was just told yesterday that the government's actually going to give them to you. You don't have to buy them. And so I know what the indicators are for when the changes happen. Until you see those things, no, we haven't won. Yeah. And anyone else is telling you something different, that's a story. It's not true.
Interesting. It's good to know.
Trump doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter if Trump is the one who's representing the White Hats or fighting for the White Hats. It could be any other person that the White Hats put into office. It doesn't have to be Trump.
And that's true. That's what Daryl James. We had another guy, SSP guy, come on. He had some information, and he said Trump is basically a placeholder. He's just there to stay out of the way of the military while they're doing this battle, basically. Because with Biden in place, obviously that's an opposing force. But if you have a white hat in a place of the president, then he's able to actually stay out of their way, and it makes things a little easier.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's right. That's right. That's why we want a white hat in office.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have to be Trump. But they'll run. But if they want to run a white hat in office again, they'll either run Trump or someone else. But we'll know ahead of time if he's a white hat by what he's talking about. Like Trump said, I'm going to release the technology. He only released a little bit, and the actual technology that was released is not. It's actually garbage tech, which means it's nothing that's very practical. But it does show the reality of over Unity. It does show the reality of Warp 1 ships. This is the one thing it did. It should make a lot of people say, wait a second, we've been lied to all along. They've had Warp 1 ships and over Unity generators all this time, and they never released them. So a lot of people should be suspicious, and they should be susceptible to listening to a white hat candidate coming forward and say, yeah, you're being messed with by all these people. Look at this technology. It's just sort of released. It's real, and they hid that from you all along. And then you have General Hyman Shedd, and we're waiting for his book to see how much disclosure he's going to give. And so the people are getting educated. I just don't know how much of an impact it's having. But we are getting solid proof now of the reality of the secret space program and the suppression that's been going on by the cabal.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah.
It is important. So do you think there's going to be a public disclosure of these secret space programs?
Yeah, when we win the battle, they'll tell you everything. They'll tell you, oh, you get to you actually get to personally get in a ship and go tour all the bases and meet all the species.
What do you think about there being some type of list being released about showing all the people who were actually involved in the SSP that don't remember?
Yeah, that's the thing. Now, I've been asked that by my brother. You know, are they gonna give us our memories back? Are they gonna give us our military records? They're supposed. I don't know about giving the memories back because that might cause a time deviation and that might not be allowed. But as far as their military records and you know, their honors and their pensions and stuff like that, that's supposed to be given back when we win the battle. All of those involved in the program are supposed to at least get that. Their you know, their back pay, their pension, their for Medal of Honor winners, you get a whole bunch of benefits. You get to wear a uniform. For my brother and I, we're retired brigadier generals because even though we were tech sergeants, when you win 5 or more oak leaf clusters are the same as 5 16th stars, except oak leaf clusters is the honors that they give the Air Force personnel. So we've won, both my brother and I won more than 5, so we get to retire as a brigadier general, 1-star general, and then we get to wear our uniforms because we won the Medal of Honor. So that's what will happen for all the super soldiers. About giving their memories back, I don't know about that one. They might get their record in writing, but they might not be given their memories back because it might cause a time deviation. But at least they'll let these guys have their records, you know, and their honors.
Well, I wonder, like some of these people who have probably been taken and have gotten no memories back. Like you can't just come and present them with a list and say, "Oh,
here's your record." I know. Yeah, my brother complained about the same thing. He said, "That's not right."
Yeah.
I go, "Yeah, I know what you mean," but it all depends on if it'll cause a time deviation, and I don't know. See, I don't know the rules that well. If it would cause a time deviation, a time violation, then the memories wouldn't be allowed, or certain memories would be allowed. I just don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
I don't know that
ones and not others. Yeah.
Maybe certain people they know already.
People maybe.
Well, then there's that part. When you get all those memories back, it might drive you nuts.
Mm-hmm. For
traumatic.
Sure. You know, you're going to get what PTSD, right?
Yeah, PTSD.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Instantly. You know, oh wow, I did that.
You got to deal with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I did that.
It might be better. That's what it might actually be more dangerous. It depends on the individual, I guess.
Right.
So all these time deviations you're talking about earlier, and for part 1, you were talking about, you know, they can't go back and change time because
You can nudge it back. You can nudge it back to the timer. There are time missions that are allowed, and you have to actually apply to do the time mission. That's what Randy Kramer talked about, nudging it back, nudging the timeline back. That's what Corey talked about. Time's elastic. It'll come back. But Randy said we actually have missions.
There's only one natural timeline. You said,
yeah,
right?
There's one natural timeline. And that has to occur, because see, the problem with time, if you wanted to go back and change time because you don't like what your futures look, you looked into the looking glass, you don't like what your futures look like, you want to go travel back in time, you got a time machine, you go back and you change time. Then John says, wait a second, I didn't like that. How come I'm going to go back and change time? Then George says, I didn't like that. How come I'm going to go back and change time? See, the problem is, if people are allowed to go back and change time, everybody's going to do it. And what happens is it screws with your head.
Yeah.
Big time.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, it messes with your head.
Yeah.
All the time changes actually messes with your head, and it'll drive everybody crazy.
Well,
Corey talked about that. Corey told you specifically what that does.
He talked about beings that came to us and said, you guys got to stop going back and changing things because you're messing up everything.
Well, do you think that's where all these Mandela effects come from?
Yes.
People trying to do that? And
yes.
Okay.
Well, the nudges themselves cause reverberations in time. Like, the Ford signal. There's actually a guy I know that actually identified 100 different changes that he actually identified. And so it's one thing in one timeline, the Ford with a little flippy Q Ford signal on the car, and it had a little twirly thing way back when, but now it doesn't no more. There are those waves in time that cause those minor changes, and that's not so bad. But if you keep doing it, everybody goes nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's not.
So nudges are allowed to nudge us back to the original timeline because we went back. The U.S. changed it to where it looked like the U.S. won the world when we really didn't. So it all has to be nudged back, like Randy said. It has to be nudged back gradually, little bits, little nudges at a time, and every nudge has to be authorized and looked at.
So right now, the militaries that are involved with the ICC, are there different? Is there two factions of the Navy, like a good and a bad?
Yep.
With every branch.
Marines, yep. Every branch, yep. They don't even know. A lot of them. There's a white hat general, and everybody in his command is with him, but they don't know it. They're not briefed. They're not read in to what's going on. They just don't know what's going on. They're starting to learn more about what's going on now when the military is being ordered by the ICC to take the vaccine now. Or it was whoa, wait a second here.
Yeah, I know people who are just resigning because they won't take the vaccine.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame them. Obviously, I mean,
good for them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they don't really understand. Well, it alters your DNA, and that means you can't use a med. Well, how do you explain that to somebody? How do you explain that to somebody?
They silently altered the definition of a vaccine on Google that and included gene modification. So they're telling you, you know.
And then people they don't get it. They're like, well, why does that matter? Okay, so I'm still alive. So what? What does that matter? Well, there's these medpods that are going to come out and they'll extend your life by 300 years, but I'm sorry, you can't use it because you were vaccinated.
Well,
what other effects it'll have as well.
Yeah, there's other effects. Yeah, you become susceptible to diseases where you had immunities. Now, no longer you don't.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. One argument a person had, I tried to explain to them about the being genetically modified, and he said, well, just because something's genetically modified doesn't make it bad.
Doesn't make it bad. Well, we've been chemoed for 250,000 years, so
yeah. I mean,
but this one's definitely trying. This one's definitely trying to get rid of people. This one is to call 1/3 of the population.
Well, if you know who's behind the modifying, then that'll set a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you guys are well informed, but most people aren't. Most people, they've all succumbed to the propaganda. They've all succumbed to the propaganda over their whole lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's getting hard out there. It's getting tough. It's getting tough to understand what's going on and then still go out and try and be a part of society. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's turning extroverts into introverts. I mean, people aren't. You just don't want
to. Yeah, and then of course we're being warned about the variant, the Delta variant,
Yeah.
So the variants. And of course that was all planned from the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The ICC planned all this from the very beginning. But like I explained it, it's because of the outer barrier. We can't be delivered up, and they do have to in their minds, they have to get rid of a certain percentage of the population or release suppressed technologies. They don't want to release the suppressed technologies. So in their minds, they got to reduce us down to 2/3 of the population in order to be able to use the resources the way that we are with the current antiquated technology level.
So are there any, you said all these underground bases are being wiped out. Were there any underground bases that belong to the White Hats that are still in operation?
No, the White Hats didn't. They didn't operate it. They were aware of them, but all those bases were controlled by the Draco. The Draconian Empire controlled all of those bases.
All of them. Wow.
Yeah, there's supposed to be over 1,000 around the world, 113 in the United States. But I've been told that they've been cleared out. But that's just part of the battle. That's just a small part of the battle.
It's still a big step.
Well, yeah.
But we are seeing all these like very suspicious earthquakes all around the planet that are at this they're all at the same level. They're all not. They don't show up like an earthquake should show up. So that shows that they are being taken out all over the planet.
But it's still only part of the battle.
But it's not
major battles are between the ships out in space.
Yeah.
On the bases and destroying their bases. I don't know if you guys remember Randy talking about the Battle of Ganymede in the summer 2014.
Maybe.
We took out we actually petitioned the Greys for 2.5. We petitioned the ICC petitioned the Super Federation for 2.5 years to be able to kick the Greys out of our solar system because they kept violating their treaty with us. They kept taking 1 million people instead of 100,000 people a year.
Oh, okay.
I gotcha.
So we got permission from the ICC, got permission from the Super Federation to take out the Greys, kick them out of our solar system, which meant we were going to kick them off their major base, which is Ganymede. Now, Ganymede's the galaxy gate. So the ICC actually defeated the Greys in the Battle of Ganymede that Randy actually flew at. And we lost half of our resources. Half of all of the U.S. military spaceships were all destroyed in the battle.
Oh, wow.
Which is why Space Force is being created by the ICC in order to get the money to rebuild the fleet. Because they're locked in by the outer barrier. One of the reasons.
So the Space Force is actually ICC.
ICC.
It's not a White Hat operation?
No. It's ICC way of getting more money to rebuild the fleet that they lost at the Battle of Ganymede in the summer 2014.
Interesting. So many people thought because Trump, proposed the Space Force that it was a White Hat thing.
No.
I mean, that's what we thought,
No. The White Hat's major resources actually come from the Chinese. And if the Chinese hadn't developed business the way I always wondered why I was told to do it. If the Chinese hadn't developed business and made so much money, the White Hats wouldn't have the finances necessary to defeat the Draco now that they have.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I always wondered why I was told to go teach them how to do business, and I did succeed in that mission on December of 1985. Always wondered. Now I know. It was to finance the White Hats. So White Hats couldn't get money from their own country because the ICC controlled all the military expenditures, including Space Force. Space Force was really designed to rebuild the fleet that we lost at the Battle of Ganymede in 2014, summer 2014.
So many people thought that Space Force was going to be the one to roll out all these, like we were talking about with SpaceX. They were going to start rolling out these like the TR-3B, the Black Triangle craft and stuff.
No, they want that to be, but no, ICC ain't rolling out no technology. No, the ICC isn't going to show you anything.
Interesting.
Trump was lucky to get just a few patents disclosed, but they're not practical. None of them. They only show you what's real. They're not practical patents. Compact fusion is not practical. It's too hot. It's way too hot. It's way too big too in order to deal with that kind of heat. It's way too expensive. It costs like 60 cents a kilowatt hour, which is way more than you're paying now for electricity. It's like that's not practical because it's too expensive. But so it didn't really have a practical use. Trump was only allowed to release certain things, but not really the good tech.
Yeah, because we were all hoping that we would get some type of rollout, like on one of the 4th of July rallies or whatever. Which on one of them, I saw it with my own eyes. There were 3 ships in the sky above the rally. There were 3 white light ships, basically. They were appeared in the videos and the photos. No one knew they were there unless you were like zoomed in on the photo. But if you were there on the ground, you would have never seen them.
Yeah, when after the Alliance, the Earth Alliance defeats the Draco, they'll show you all the ships. They'll show you everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'll get to see them all. They'll be it's just like the Blue Angels, shows.
Yeah.
Bring them all, and you guys will all go to the military bases in the stands and watch all that stuff. They'll do it. They'll show you it all.
Yeah, they just show it off. Yeah, and I kind of imagine that's like how it would be rolled out anyway. To be honest. Yeah, that's interesting.
Aliens will come out of their ships and talk to you on speaker and everything like that. And then you're invited to come to our plant and do tours. And here's our tour guide, and they're making the arrangements. And
all the flat earthers are going to have.
You guys will go do 2 weeks at a time in a Warp One ship specifically designed to do tours. And like I said, 1-seaters, 2-seaters, 4-seaters, 8-seaters, and you'll go out and you'll do tours of these bases and all these aliens that are here. The Venusians are pretty advanced.
I can imagine if that happens, the flat earthers are all going to have a meltdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was like that was like I forgot who was telling. Yeah, Willis was telling me about that. That's just to say propaganda in order to get. Yeah. He was explaining what that was.
Yeah, we know that. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I mean, every whistleblower, every SSP person that we've interviewed,
either they're all somehow wrong or delusional, or including you.
But I mean, it's not a spear, it's a toroid, but okay, but it's still flat. It's still round, it ain't flat, Not
an infinite plane, flat. Yeah.
Well, that's why Google Earth has like the poles blurred out, because they don't want you to see that. For like, I don't know, people claim it's like so many, like I've heard that it's 1,400 miles wide. I've heard it's like 300 miles wide. The whole,
Yeah. I don't know the truth, but what the flat earthers are doing is they're saying, why does the ocean's water stay in the oceans? And it's a very good question, and you have to be an advanced physicist to answer it. See, they're actually positing very good questions.
Well, I always said if we were taught real physics and we understood the way the universe actually worked,
right,
then no one would be a flat earther.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're
not teaching you the correct physics. They're not teaching you this stuff, and that's really what the flat earthers are telling you, is that the technology. I'm sorry, the knowledge, the academic information, and the formulas and the mathematics to explain why the oceans don't fall out is something you're not being taught. That's what they're trying to tell you. They're saying you guys are being fooled, and so you're being fooled so much in the sense that we can tell you the Earth is flat and you'll believe it, because you don't know the answer to those questions, because you're not being taught the answer to those questions in your universities. Hey, I sent you the easy proof of over unity, right? It's a two-page proof of over unity. There's an engineer I haven't showed that to that says that's a bunch of hooey.
Wait,
you should post that sucker someday.
Wait, what do you mean? You said that
over unity. I gave you first proof.
I got it. But you're saying that there isn't an engineer
any engineer that I present that to can't defeat it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So why isn't that being taught in the universities and in the high schools?
They don't want you to know.
Well, that's the point. See, that's what the flat earthers are telling you, is that the real science, you're not being taught the real science because you can't even answer the basic questions. That's really what they're saying.
Exactly. Well,
most of them actually believe that it's flat just because they're like, well, they lie about everything, so of course they're lying about the shape, and it's flat. And then they have all their proof that's not
right. Really and because you guys aren't getting trained properly in physics, even at the high school level, you can't defeat the argument. And that's the real confusing part. It's like, well, do you know how to defeat that argument mathematically? No, I don't. I was never trained to. See my point?
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to tell you. What they're trying to tell you is you guys are really stupid, and we kept you stupid. It's really insulting, but it's true.
Yeah.
Keep you guys stupid. You don't know any of the basics.
We don't even know ourselves.
You don't know about the 6 force, the 7 force. You don't know about the soul. You don't know. You don't know about over unity. And look how easy it is for me to teach over unity.
Humanity's been manipulated for a really long time. So it's once the control and manipulation will end. We'll actually
still a lot of education required. There's still a lot. And then the high schools and what's being taught in high schools, universities is going to change overnight. Yeah. And so you are going to look dumb when your kids come home and say this, and that. You're going to look okay.
Yeah.
They're going to look at you, the dummy. They're going
to know all this stuff, and we're going to be teach us.
Like the baby boomers, they say, babies, you guys are going to be the dummies.
Yeah. Well, the kids, they'll be teaching us. Some
right. That's
these kids coming in now are brilliant. I wasn't that smart at that age, you know.
Hey, let me. I gotta plug in my computer. It's about to die. 1 second.
Yeah, you're good. But also they don't teach us about the. We don't even know that much about the human body. We know physically how it operates, but there's a whole energetic system that they don't teach us that we have to learn on our own.
Right. How do the Medpods work? Actually, Randy Kramer actually describes it really well. But the technology came from studying how lizards grow their tails, how octopuses grow their pods. You know, grow them when they're cut off, and then it's regrown.
They regrow,
right away. Well, that's where we learned it from, studying that. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know if we purchased that technology or we discovered it ourselves, but whoever did it, that's where they learned it from.
That's where it came from. Yeah, it makes perfect sense, actually.
Like everything, all that science is in nature. All the highly advanced science is in nature. You just, like Boyd Bushman said, you just have to know how to read it. Nature speaks, just have to know how to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where all that came from.
I believe that. I mean, it's pretty obvious. And nature is incredible if you stop and observe it. I mean, there is so much to learn just from observing an insect all day. You know, you can learn a ton, but we're just walking around in zombie mode, staring at our phones, and those trees might as well not even be there. You know, to some people.
Yeah, you got that. Yeah. All right. What else, guys?
I unless you have anything else you want to share, I guess.
No, not today. We had enough time today. I'm sure we'll get together some more.
Yeah.
You'll have a whole list of new questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for coming on and sharing everything and doing this. This was incredible. I'm sure people are going to enjoy this, and this is going to be one of those. Both of these episodes are going to be something you're going to have to go back and re-listen to because there's so much to digest.
Yeah, I talk fast.
No, it's great though.
Amazing.
It's great information. Yeah. I'd rather you deliver it that way than very slow and boring. So it actually works, you know?
Sure. I'm sure we'll get together after you guys absorb that, you'll have a whole list of questions.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean,
who knows what events will unfold, you know, between that time too.
That we talk about events too as they happen. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for the moderators. Thank you to thanks for all the donations, guys. Thank you for everything you do. But don't forget to grab some CBD. If you're looking for new CBD, get 10% off. Promo code Journey to Truth 10. If you're looking for some Teespring merch, 15% off. Promo code CGI Joe and 10% off of the Omnia Radiation Balancer with promo code Truth in all caps. And guys, next spring, we are actually putting on a space program conference. We're calling it the Secret Space Conference here in the Midwest. And the whole purpose of it is to make a case for the Secret Space program. And it's lining up to be pretty awesome. So stay tuned for more details on that. Hopefully not too much longer, and we'll actually, tickets will be available. So we're really excited about that. Other than that, I think that's it. Unless there's any last words, Dan, for you.
No. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it tremendously.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, have a great night, and we will see you next time.
Thanks.